All right, we've already learned about this process of creating a memory in this lesson series. We have the encoding and storage stage where the cortex is responding to the event, and then a hippocampal memory trace is formed that links the pattern of activity in the cortex. Then we have a consolidation stage during sleep where the hippocampal memory traces are used to strengthen the cortical memory traces, and we'll say more about this sleep process in a moment. And then the retrieval process whereby we use hippocampal memory traces to reactivate cortical memory traces. So early on in the learning stage, we need the hippocampus to help us reactivate. But if we go through successful consolidation over time and we repeatedly study, we will have strong cortical memory traces where we can access without the hippocampus. In this lesson, then, we'll just ask a more general question. We'll take a step back. Why does the brain consolidate memory in the cortex? So why do this whole process? Well, there are two answers we'll cover in this lesson, and one is a fairly simple one, that there's more storage space in the cortex. There are more neurons, 80 billion neurons or so, and so more synapses. And with more synapses, you can store more memory in the cerebral cortex than in the hippocampus itself. And another way to think about that, there's going to be less interference due to new learning. So you can have uniquely stored memory files in a larger capacity memory storage system than in the hippocampus. With fewer neurons and fewer synapses, whenever you learn something new, it is in danger of interfering with older memory traces. Now, the second reason is kind of interesting. A recently discovered phenomenon, again happening during sleep, that the hippocampus must be refreshed for new learning. So scientists are gathering evidence that during sleep, the brain is actually, in addition to consolidation, after it consolidates memories in the cortex, it's erasing hippocampal memory traces to some degree each night. So let's take a look at what's going on here in more detail. Here's the hippocampus. Let's say it's got a finite number of neurons and a certain number of synapses. And let's say as a result of the day's learning, we have strengthened a certain set of synapses, and that represents a memory of the learned information. It represents the pattern of activity up there in the cortex as well. Now, the issue here is because the hippocampus has fewer number of neurons than the cerebral cortex, the hippocampus is in danger of saturating all of its synapses as we learn more and more information. So if we just kept on learning, all of these synapses will be maxed out. They would be saturated. And if you can't strengthen a synapse, you can't learn anything new. So these synapses must be reset to some kind of baseline strength for new learning. But that can only happen after we've consolidated or saved the new memories to the cortex. So we're going to see we have two processes going on during sleep, really important processes. So the goal of sleep, in addition to consolidating memories in the cortex, is to reset the hippocampus to a condition favorable for learning. So we're going to have to weaken the very synapses that were strengthened during a day's learning. And the effect of that then is that we're refreshing the hippocampus. So a refreshed hippocampus will be ready to learn new things, or a second study session covering the same information. So this is one of the advantages then of studying each day. We're going to have a nice refreshed hippocampus ready with synapses that can grow a lot to capture the new learning, or a second study session covering the same material. So here's a way of thinking about it then. Newly formed memory traces must be saved to the cortex before they are erased in the hippocampus. So we do consolidation during sleep. We use the hippocampal memory traces for the day's learning to strengthen cortical memory traces, but then we're going to erase older memory traces, especially in the hippocampus, in preparation for new learning. So two very interesting memory processing stages are happening during sleep. One of the stages is strengthening cortical memory traces, using the hippocampal memory traces for that purpose. And then the next stage is to start to weaken older memory traces in the hippocampus to prepare the hippocampus for new learning. If we go back to this kind of diagram, we could say the hippocampus learns fast but forgets quickly. So it's a fast learner in the sense that one trial learning can cause a large increase in synapse strength. But the hippocampus itself is a bad long-term storage location because of the process happening during sleep, where hippocampal synapses are weakened again for further learning. So in a sense, the hippocampus must teach the cortex before it forgets. Right? We've got to do that consolidation process so that the hippocampus can be prepared for new learning. Now, the cortex learns slowly but forgets slowly as well. So you recall, we need multiple activations in the cortex to strengthen those cortical synapses, but the synapses decay very slowly, and that's exactly what we want for a long-term memory system. So the cortex is a slow learner, but it retains information very well. So that's why we want to get memories stored in the cortex. They will last a long time. So to summarize then, why does the brain consolidate memory in the cortex? We consolidate memories in the cortex because there is more storage capacity in the cortex and cortical memory traces decay slowly. In addition, importantly, the hippocampal memory traces are being erased in preparation for new learning, so we must save recent memories to the cortex before the hippocampal memory traces get erased.